How does a man who once brought to life a legendary spy endure the greatest loss of his life? For Pierce Brosnan, the answer is clear faith, a profound faith in God in life and in the inner strength that carries him through life's toughest storms. Raised in a devout Catholic family in Ireland, the church has always been a refuge for him, a place where he finds solace and the courage to keep moving forward even as wave after wave of grief crashes down. At 71, Pierce Brosnan, the man who once mesmerized millions as the suave, unshakable James Bond, now faces the most heartbreaking challenge of his real life. His first wife, Cassandra, lost her battle with ovarian cancer at just 43. Then tragedy struck again when his beloved daughter also passed away from the same relentless disease at only 41. Now the man who played the world's most resilient spy finds himself fighting a battle he cannot win, and the choices he makes have the world watching closely. If you found this story interesting, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, just leave a 0. Don't forget to like and share the video and share your thoughts below. We'd love to hear from you. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. Now let's dive in and start this journey together. Pierce Brosnan was born into a life far from easy, no inheritance, no grand family legacy, and most of all, no father by his side. His dad, Thomas Brosnan, a humble carpenter, disappeared so early that Pierce has no memory of his face voice or any sign of his presence. It was as if he vanished into thin air, leaving a deep void in the boy's childhood. His mother, May, carried the weight alone on her fragile shoulders. She worked as a nurse and fought tirelessly to keep the family afloat through the toughest times. But in 1957, when Pierce was just 4 years old, his mother faced a heartbreaking choice to leave Ireland and move to London for work, leaving her young son behind. It wasn't a decision made lightly, but out of sheer necessity. What was meant to be a brief separation turned into 7 long years. 7 years during which Pierce was shuffled from one household to another, each with its own rules, unfamiliar faces, and strange new schools. Every move felt like stepping into a completely different world. At first, he lived with his grandparents in Navan, then later with aunts and uncles in Trim. Each home brought new experiences, fresh faces, and its own lessons. But Pierce was never in one place long enough to truly feel at home. The constant moving taught him to stay quiet, watch closely, and protect himself. He was always the new kid, always the outsider, no matter where he went. His teachers saw something different in him, smart but reserved, thoughtful yet private. He often sat staring out the window as if his mind was far away, not fully present in the classroom or the world around him. Everything began to change in 1964 when Pierce was 11. He moved to Green, Scotland, where his mother had remarried a man named William Carmichael. William was a factory worker, simple, hardworking, and incredibly patient. For a boy used to constant change and instability, this new home brought a flood of emotions, joy at being reunited with his mother, but also confusion and even some resentment. After all, she now had another man in her life, someone who wasn't his father. Even so, William never tried to replace anyone. He accepted his role with quiet humility and built a bond with Pierce through small, meaningful gestures. He taught him how to fish, how to fix things around the house, and most importantly, how to open his heart and trust again. There was no pressure, no expectations, just patience and gentle affection. One day, William took Pierce to see a movie, an experience that would change the boy's life forever. The movie was Goldfinger, released in 1964, starring Sean Connery as James Bond, the perfect picture of strength, confidence, and commanding presence. That night, as the big screen lit up with Bond in his sleek black tuxedo, cool gaze and charming smile, something stirred deep inside Pierce. James Bond was more than just a character on screen. He embodied everything Pierce longed for: inner strength, unwavering confidence, and the ability to take control of any situation. In Pierce's eyes, Bond had a power he'd never seen in real life, an irresistible charisma and inner strength that drew admiration from everyone around him. That image became a mirror he could aspire to, a symbol of all he'd never known: a strong, fearless man who stood firm against every challenge. From that moment, Pierce knew he wanted to be like Bond, to carry that calm confidence and grace, to live a life he could fully control, no matter what came his way. By the age of 16, Pierce made a bold, life-changing decision. He dropped out of school in London and enrolled at St. Martin's School of Art. With no money and no clear plan, he was driven by a fierce passion for painting. He found deep inspiration in the works of Francis Bacon and Lucian Freud. At that point, acting hadn't even crossed his mind. His focus was solely on illustration and design. Life wasn't easy. Pierce lived on toast and tea while his friends came from wealthier families and enjoyed far more comfortable lives. Yet Pierce never felt inferior. He was determined to prove he deserved his place, that despite his humble beginnings, he could forge his own path in life. But fate had other plans. In 1971, while still studying art, Pierce came across a drama class in South London. There, he watched a performer practicing fire breathing. Instead of walking away, he stepped forward and asked if he could try. That spontaneous choice became a major turning point, a detour he never saw coming. The group of performers saw something special in him: courage, a natural presence, and a spirit eager to explore the unknown. They invited him to join them. Although Pierce had never acted before, this moment changed everything. It was as if the world of James Bond, a world full of adventure and intrigue, had suddenly opened up before him. He was stepping into a new journey, one where risks came hand in hand with unexpected rewards. Afterward, he enrolled at the London Drama Centre, one of the UK's toughest acting schools, where he studied intensively for 3 years from 1973 to 1976. Pierce threw himself fully into mastering the craft. The program was grueling and not for the faint-hearted. Over 60% of students dropped out, unable to handle the pressure. The instructors were famously strict, using a break-it-down-to-build-it-up approach that forced a deep emotional and psychological cleanse. Many couldn't withstand the intensity and left halfway through. Some struggled both mentally and physically. But Pierce didn't give up. To cover tuition and living expenses, Pierce took on multiple part-time jobs. He faced financial struggles but was determined to follow the path he had chosen. He dove deep into Shakespeare's works, exploring the heart of acting. He also studied mime and circus arts skills that would later shape his unique style. At the time, tuition cost $200 per year, a significant amount for a young man armed only with passion and determination. Amid countless challenges, Pierce gradually found a new reason to keep moving forward. He was no longer the abandoned boy relying on relatives to get by. He was becoming someone else, a person with a future and clear goals. Every class, every performance was a step toward making that dream real. From outsider and rootless boy, Pierce was slowly transforming into the man who would one day become one of cinema's greatest icons. Pierce was never one to give up easily. In the early years of his career, he relentlessly chased every small opportunity that came his way. Then in 1976, he landed his first breakthrough role, a stage play called Wait Until Dark. It was a gripping thriller full of tension and suspense. Pierce was cast as a chilling character, someone with a mysterious, unsettling presence beneath the surface. That cold, intense edge made him stand out. The director saw in him an extraordinary inner strength, something that couldn't be taught or learned. For the first time, Pierce truly felt the stage spotlight shining directly on him. Just a year later, Pierce pushed himself further by taking a role in Tennessee Williams's The Red Devil Battery Sign. The production didn't fare well with American audiences and was even considered a failure. But Pierce didn't lose heart. Instead of giving up, he brought the play to London, pouring every ounce of energy into his performance. On the British stage, he brought the character to life, and this time critics couldn't ignore him. They offered genuine praise. Gradually, the name Pierce Brosnan began to stand out, no longer just an unknown actor lost in the crowd. After that success, Pierce started moving into film. In 1980, he appeared in The Mirror Cracked, sharing the screen with the legendary Elizabeth Taylor. It was a small supporting role. He was on screen for less than 30 seconds, and his pay was just $50. But for Pierce, it marked the beginning, a milestone, the first step into the world of cinema. That same year, Pierce appeared in The Long Good Friday, acting alongside big names like Helen Mirren and Bob Hoskins. He played a minor member of the IRA in the film. At the time, the movie didn't get much attention and didn't make a big splash. But over time, The Long Good Friday became a classic of British cinema. And there, among the lead actors, Pierce Brosnan quietly built his reputation step by step without rushing or making noise. By 1982, Pierce was still relatively unknown outside the UK. He had a few roles on TV and stage, but nothing that truly broke through. Then something unexpected happened. He auditioned for a small part in a new NBC series called Remington, Steele. The role was minor, a victim who gets killed, just one scene, and then it was over. But then something no one expected happened. The NBC casting director saw something special in Pierce. It wasn't just his looks or style. They recognized a natural charisma, a powerful presence every time he stepped on screen, and an undeniable magnetism. They called him back not for a small part, but to audition for the lead role. That role completely changed his life. The lead in Remington, Steele was originally written for an experienced American man, around 50, a seasoned con artist. Meanwhile, Pierce was just 29, Irish, and virtually unknown in the US. But the producers took a chance on him. A bold gamble. And as history would show, it turned out to be one of their best decisions ever. More than 200 actors auditioned for the lead role, many well-known Hollywood names. Yet the part went to Pierce Brosnan. His distinct Irish accent almost cost him the chance. Executives worried American audiences wouldn't accept a foreign lead, especially in such an all-American role like Remington Steele. But the moment Brosnan stepped into the character, all doubts disappeared. He was Remington Steele, cool, calm, mysterious, and audiences were instantly drawn to his charisma. The show premiered on October 1st, 1982, and from the very first episode, it became an instant hit. Remington Steele quickly rose to become the second most popular series on NBC. In its first year, it attracted an average weekly audience of 15.6 million viewers, a huge number for TV at the time. But the road to success wasn't completely smooth. After 4 seasons in 1986, the show was suddenly canceled. Fans protested loudly, and the overwhelming pressure made the studio rethink their decision. As a perfect send-off, Remington Steele was brought back for one final season. The final episode aired in February 1987, drawing nearly 26 million viewers, a number many other TV shows could only dream of. At its peak, Remington Steele generated over $50 million annually for NBC from advertising revenue alone. But the success didn't stop there. International earnings soared even higher, reaching up to $200 million. The series was broadcast in more than 80 countries worldwide. Then something curious happened in the U.S. Between 1983 and 1987, applications for private detective licenses surged by 340%. Clearly, Pierce Brosnan's portrayal of the clever, cool, and charming detective left a profound impact far beyond the screen. However, that success came with a price. Just 2 months after Remington Steele premiered, critics began to speak up. Pierce Brosnan should be the next James Bond. In January 1983, Entertainment Weekly called him the actor most like James Bond since Sean Connery. A few months later, the legendary 007 producer Albert Cubby Broccoli officially reached out to Brosnan. He had been quietly watching his performances and took a special interest. By 1984, rumors were spreading fast. NBC seized the moment, tweaking their marketing to hint at Brosnan's image as the mysterious agent. On the cover of TV Guide, his photo appeared with the bold caption, "Next 07. Could he be the next James Bond?" Even Anne Fleming, widow of Ian Fleming. The creator of James Bond openly admitted that Brosnan looked and acted exactly as her late husband had imagined Bond. At the same time, Brosnan began earning serious recognition from industry professionals. That same year, he was nominated for a Golden Globe for his role in the series Nancy Astor. It was only his second major TV role, yet he was up against legends like Anthony Hopkins and John Gielgud. Brosnan came close. Insiders revealed he lost by just 3 votes. His performance was so impressive that even the Astor family, who initially opposed the project, acknowledged the depth and authenticity of his portrayal. However, his journey to becoming James Bond, though promising, was far more complicated than most people realized. Most people believe Pierce Brosnan only came into consideration for James Bond in 1985. But the truth is different. He was actually in the running as early as 1983 when the team was preparing A View to a Kill. At that time, Roger Moore, who was playing Bond, was still unsure if he would continue. Meanwhile, Brosnan, gaining popularity from Remington Steele, had already become a strong contender. Pierce met the legendary producer Albert Cubby Broccoli on the set of For Your Eyes Only, where his wife Cassandra Harris had a small role. Broccoli observed Brosnan from a distance and said, "If he can act, then he's the one I've been looking for." In Brosnan, he saw something special: charm, coolness, calmness, and an unmistakable presence. However, the studio hesitated. They weren't ready to risk replacing Roger Moore at that time. In the end, they made Moore an offer he couldn't refuse, over $3.5 million for one more film. So Brosnan's Bond dream was quietly put on hold once again. In 1986, Remington Steele was officially canceled after 4 seasons. Brosnan seemed free to chase his dream of becoming James Bond. But just then, rumors started swirling in the media about him possibly landing the 007 role. Something unexpected happened. The show's ratings suddenly surged. Viewers returned eager to see the future Bond on their screens. NBC seized the moment, reversing their cancellation and ordering a shortened 5th season. But for Brosnan, this turned into a tragedy. Bound by his NBC contract, he couldn't freely accept the Bond role. His biggest career dream was shattered once again, not because of talent or choice, but due to legal restrictions. While Brosnan was forced to finish the final season of Remington Steele, the 007 producers turned to another choice, Timothy Dalton Pierce's close friend in real life. Brosnan had to step back smiling on the outside, but heavy-hearted inside. Dalton brought a very different Bond, darker, grittier, and more violent. However, this take wasn't warmly received. License to Kill grossed only $34 million in the U.S., falling far short of expectations. Meanwhile, Pierce stood on the sidelines, fully aware he could bring something different, a Bond who balanced sophistication with emotional depth. From 1986 to 1994, a period fans call the wasted years, Pierce Brosnan didn't disappear. On the contrary, he made careful, smart choices. In 1987, he played a British spy in The Fourth Protocol, a politically charged cerebral thriller. The role wasn't Bond, but it carried a similar vibe. Before that, in Nomads 1986, he delved into the supernatural genre, playing a mysterious character that showcased his range. He also appeared in a Diet Coke commercial dressed in a suit and sunglasses, with a calm, confident demeanor and unofficial Bond look-alike. It was his way of reminding audiences that he was still here, still ready. As his career was gaining momentum, Pierce's personal life entered a bright new chapter. In the late 1970s, he met Cassandra Harris, an Australian actress born Sandra Colleen Waits, who had been previously married and had 2 children, Charlotte and Christopher. When they first met, Pierce didn't expect to fall in love. He simply thought she was beautiful and intriguing. But love came unexpectedly, without warning or plan. Not long after they moved in together in Wimbledon. On December 27, 1980, they got married. Cassandra had endured many losses, making this new chapter in her life especially meaningful. With 2 children from her previous marriage, life was far from simple, but Pierce never hesitated. He stepped into the lives of Charlotte and Christopher as if he had always been part of the family. In 1986, when Cassandra's ex-husband, actor Dermot Harris, passed away from a heart attack, Pierce officially adopted the children, and they took his last name. But this wasn't just a change on paper. Having grown up without a father himself, Pierce understood the emptiness it brought, so he poured all his love into becoming a true father to them. He once said, "I wasn't a father. I was just Pierce. And then one day I became a dad." In 1983, Cassandra and Pierce welcomed their son, Sean. The family of 5 shared a home filled with laughter, where simple meals and big dreams were cherished alike. For Pierce, that was real success. Though he was on the path to stardom deep down, he was just a man determined to give his children the love he never had growing up. He always put the safety, happiness, and sense of being valued of those around him above everything else. A pivotal moment came in 1981 when Cassandra was cast as one of the Bond girls in For Your Eyes Only. This was a memorable role she landed before Pierce Brosnan even dreamed of becoming 007. While Cassandra was filming, Pierce had the chance to meet Bond producer Albert Broccoli. Cassandra trusted Broccoli and consistently encouraged him to consider Pierce for the role. Broccoli was deeply impressed by Pierce and saw him as the ideal candidate for the next James Bond. However, a major obstacle stood in the way. Pierce's contract with Remington Steele prevented him from taking the role immediately, or at least for the time being. Cassandra was eager for Pierce to have this opportunity, but sadly she didn't live to see it come to fruition. By 1987, while Pierce was filming The Deceivers in India, Cassandra's health began to decline noticeably. They rushed back to London for medical tests, and the news was devastating. Cassandra was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, not a small tumor or something easily treatable, but a disease that had spread extensively throughout her body. The diagnosis struck their family like a devastating blow. Pierce recalled, "From the very first day, we had to step into a life-or-death battle. The years that followed were filled with pain and struggle. Cassandra endured 8 major and minor surgeries and a year and a half of chemotherapy. Her hair gradually fell out, her body weakened, but her spirit remained unbreakable throughout it all." Cassandra never accepted anything without question. She constantly challenged the treatment methods and took an active role in decisions about her health. She faced everything with remarkable courage. Throughout it all, Pierce stood by her as a steady pillar of support, describing himself as the silent one, always there, yet often feeling powerless, watching the woman he loved endure so much pain. Their young son, Sean, was just a baby, then sometimes pretending to be a doctor to comfort his mother through those tough days. The story becomes even more heartbreaking, knowing that Cassandra's mother had also died from the same ovarian cancer. This wasn't mere coincidence, it was a hereditary disease, making the burden even heavier to bear. Their family faced not only the pain of loss, but also deep concern for their eldest daughter, Charlotte. Pierce became a passionate advocate for early screening and raising awareness about ovarian cancer. Although it was too late for Cassandra, he dedicated himself to helping others avoid the same fate. By December 1991, Cassandra's time was nearing its end. One night, as they lay together in bed, Pierce was overwhelmed with grief, and Cassandra softly whispered, "Please, my love, don't worry. It's just life slowly coming to an end." Even with her final moments approaching, she held on to her strength and dignity. She refused to be kept on machines or stay hospitalized longer than necessary, wanting to leave peacefully and with grace. Cassandra passed away on December 28, 1991, at just 43 years old. Pierce and his son Christopher were by her side in her final moments. Meanwhile, Charlotte, who was studying acting in London, received the news over the phone. It was a sorrowful Christmas season. While others were celebrating, Pierce was busy preparing for the funeral of his beloved wife. The hardest part for him was telling his 8-year-old son, Sean, that his mother had passed away. Pierce suddenly found himself a single father raising 3 young children, Sean, 8 years old, Christopher, 19, and Charlotte, 20. He admitted it was the first time in his life he experienced such deep and true sorrow. The overwhelming grief threatened to consume him, but he knew he had to keep going for the sake of his children. Reflecting on Cassandra, he said, "She is the person who made me who I am." Later, he added, "She will always be a part of me." Finally, in 1994, Pierce Brosnan was officially chosen to play James Bond, a major turning point in both his career and his life. What makes this story even more profound and personal is Pierce's wife, Cassandra Harris. She was a Bond girl in the 1981 film For Your Eyes Only. During that time, Cassandra was battling cancer, yet she tirelessly encouraged Pierce to pursue the role of James Bond. She longed to see him become 007 before she passed away. So when he finally landed the role, it wasn't just a career triumph, it was a bittersweet mix of loss and joyous victory. Pierce's debut in GoldenEye was a groundbreaking moment, not just for him, but for the entire James Bond franchise. The film reignited the series' spark despite a hefty $60 million production budget that nearly bankrupted MGM. Had it failed, the Bond brand might have ended right then and there. But GoldenEye became a massive success, raking in $353 million worldwide. The iconic tank chase through the streets of St. Petersburg alone cost up to $8 million to film. Pierce Brosnan performed nearly 90% of his own stunts, including a heart-stopping bungee jump from a 720-foot dam in Switzerland. The risk was so high that insurance companies refused to cover the stunt. GoldenEye premiered exactly 30 years after Sean Connery's final Bond film, Diamonds Are Forever. GoldenEye wasn't just another movie, it was a spectacular revival of the entire James Bond franchise. Its impact even reached beyond the screen as Nintendo's GoldenEye 007 video game introduced Bond to a whole new generation and transformed the gaming industry. Brosnan's next 3 Bond films continued this winning streak, collectively grossing over $1.2 billion worldwide. Yet behind these incredible achievements, Pierce faced deep personal losses that cast a shadow over his success. When Tomorrow Never Dies hit theaters in 1997, Pierce Brosnan was still carrying the weight of Cassandra's loss 6 years after her passing. He poured that deep personal pain into his performance, adding layers of intensity to Bond's character. The film featured a spectacular chase through Saigon that cost an astonishing $12 million to produce, even requiring the construction of an entire Vietnamese street set in the UK. By 1999, the movie boasted the longest opening scene in Bond history, a gripping 14-minute sequence that set a new standard for the franchise's action. Tomorrow Never Dies also broke new ground by introducing the franchise's first female lead villain, injecting a fresh and unexpected dynamic into the series. One unforgettable scene featured a real oil pipeline explosion using 120 gallons of gasoline to create a massive fireball visible from over 10 meters away. Then in 2002, Die Another Day celebrated the 40th anniversary of James Bond, but the film nearly cost Brosnan his health. During a daring parachute stunt, a powerful 30-foot wave dragged him underwater, resulting in severe hypothermia and a hospital stay. The incident was a stark reminder of the physical risks Brosnan took to bring Bond's adventures to life. In Die Another Day, the Aston Martin Bond's iconic ride was upgraded with cutting-edge cloaking technology, making it virtually invisible. This high-tech car was valued at a staggering $300,000. The film also featured a breathtaking ice palace constructed in Iceland, crafted entirely from 1,000 tons of real ice. These grand set pieces not only amplified the movie's visual spectacle, but also showcased the producer's commitment to delivering an unparalleled cinematic experience. However, what truly distinguished Pierce Brosnan wasn't just the dazzling box office success or breathtaking stunts. In 1996, he earned the Saturn Award for Best Actor, notably surpassing Sean Connery, the original Bond legend who was nominated the same year for The Rock. This historic achievement marked the first time a modern James Bond was officially recognized above a classic, signaling a new era and cementing Brosnan's place as a defining figure in the franchise's legacy. Following the immense success of GoldenEye, legendary director Steven Spielberg himself approached Brosnan, extending an offer for the role of Indiana Jones in the acclaimed film series. However, Brosnan declined this lucrative opportunity, demonstrating his steadfast loyalty to the James Bond character, a choice that profoundly impacted his career and standing. Despite potentially foregoing up to $50 million in earnings, his refusal served as powerful proof of his deep affection and commitment to the iconic role. Brosnan's career appeared to be flawlessly progressing until a pivotal moment in 2004. At that moment, he was in the Bahamas shooting scenes at sunset, and life truly felt perfect. He'd finished 4 James Bond movies, which had collectively raked in $1.4 billion at the box office. He was in peak physical condition, training hard, and actively contributing ideas for the next Bond film, Bond 21. But then, at exactly 2:47 p.m., his phone rang a fateful call. The film producers told him they were ending his contract with no explanation or warning beforehand. The call lasted just 47 seconds, and the message was short and cold. "You were a great James Bond. Thank you very much. Goodbye." And just like that, everything ended suddenly and coldly. What made it even more brutal was the massive success of the Bond films he'd starred in. Die Another Day alone had raked in $431.9 million, making it the highest-grossing James Bond film at that point. Yet despite all that success, the producers decided they wanted a younger Bond, someone they felt would better appeal to a new audience. They waited for the exact moment when Pierce was alone and vulnerable to deliver the decisive blow. In less than 3 days, everything completely changed. His 3 film contracts were canceled and studios gradually pulled back. Later leaked internal emails revealed he was considered too Bond, too strongly associated with the James Bond image to the point producers believed he'd struggle to land other roles in the future. This decision forced Pierce Brosnan into a tough period in his career and personal life. He lost the role that had defined him for years and had to figure out how to reinvent himself in a constantly changing, super-competitive entertainment industry. Still, despite everything, his impact on the Bond franchise remains an unforgettable part of cinema history and holds a special spot in the hearts of fans worldwide. His asking price plummeted from $12 million to just $3 million, a massive cut that put him under intense financial pressure. To adjust to this new reality, he had to lay off 12 employees in his company, a tough but essential decision to keep the business afloat. The combined stress of money troubles and work pushed him into a severe state of depression. This didn't just affect his spirit. It deeply shook those closest to him. His children saw him break down in tears, watching the Casino Royale trailer, a painful, unforgettable moment. That's when his role as James Bond was coldly passed on to someone else, with no farewell or explanation. The truth was, for the 2 years before, the producers had been quietly auditioning various actors, all while pretending to have complete trust and support for him. That betrayal wounded him far more deeply than just being fired. But amid seemingly insurmountable hardships, 1994 brought him a meaningful surprise that changed his life. Just months before officially becoming James Bond, on the evening of April 8th, at a party on the beautiful beach of Cabo San Lucas, he met Keely Shea Smith, a vibrant and captivating journalist. The two quickly felt a connection from their very first meeting. Remarkably, Keely wasn't drawn to his fame or reputation, but to the genuine and humble person underneath. They had a passionate conversation that lasted until 2 a.m., forging a special bond. Just 3 weeks after meeting, he introduced Keely to his children, a major step in their relationship. Only 6 months later, she decided to move in with him, solidifying their serious and lasting commitment. Their love wasn't just about romantic moments. It became a strong foundation that helped him navigate tough times, especially through the ups and downs of his career and personal life. In 2001, they married in Ireland in a simple, intimate ceremony that cost a total of just $2 million. The wedding took place at Ballintubber Abbey, a religious site with nearly 800 years of history, deeply rooted in Irish culture and tradition. The guest list was very limited, with only about 100 close family members and friends, including famous stars like Judi Dench and Liam Neeson. On that special day, Pierce Brosnan wore a traditional Irish kilt symbolizing his deep connection to his new homeland's culture. He couldn't hold back his emotions and shed tears watching Keely walk down the aisle, a moment that truly marked the start of a new chapter in their lives. Another heartbreaking tragedy struck his family when his daughter Charlotte Brosnan passed away in 2013 at just 41 years old. But her death was more than a personal loss. It marked the third time cancer had cruelly taken a loved one from their family. Charlotte's grandmother had died from ovarian cancer, and her mother, Cassandra Harris, Pierce Brosnan's ex-wife, also succumbed to the same illness at only 43. Now Charlotte, just 2 years younger than her mother, was fought bravely but couldn't beat this ruthless disease. For 3 years, Charlotte quietly battled ovarian cancer, a disease tragically known as the silent killer, because it often shows no clear symptoms until it's too late. In fact, 75% of women diagnosed with ovarian cancer only discover it in its final stages, which slashes survival chances from 90% down to a mere 20 to 30%. Born in 1971, Charlotte lost her biological father Dermot Harris at a young age and was adopted by Pierce Brosnan in 1986. From that moment on, she became an indispensable part of his life and heart. The Brosnan family's story isn't just about fame, success, or blockbuster movies. It's also a powerful lesson in resilience, love, and the silent pains many of us may never truly understand. Beyond his image as a silver screen hero, Pierce Brosnan is a devoted father and husband who has continuously fought and held on to his faith even while facing life's greatest challenges. He gave her his name, his sincere love, and a permanent place in his heart. But no matter how deep that love was, it couldn't stop the hereditary curse that claimed 2 generations in the family. For Pierce, it wasn't just the loss of his beloved daughter. It was also the painful experience of witnessing history repeat itself in the harshest way. Back in 1991, he had already lost his wife, Cassandra, to the very same ovarian cancer. Cassandra underwent 8 surgeries and endured 18 months of painful chemotherapy. Pierce described it as a life-altering experience, watching the gradual loss of the person he loved. He said, "You're facing death. Everything changes." Then 22 years later, the same cruel fate befell Charlotte, multiplying his pain many times over. At the 2014 Stand Up to Cancer fundraising event, Pierce took the stage and shared his heartfelt emotions. He said, "I held the generous, strong, and beautiful hand of my first wife, Cassie, as ovarian cancer took her life too soon. And just last year, I held the hand of my funny, wonderful daughter, Charlotte, before she too passed away from this cruel hereditary disease." This wasn't just a fresh pain. It was also a deep, dark, and all too familiar trauma for him. One of Pierce's closest friends, Tom Roylance, once shared that Charlotte's illness cast a heavy shadow, making Pierce relive the entire nightmare from before. Yet he still found joy in new love. In 2001, Pierce married Keely Shea Smith and started a happy new family with 2 sons, Dylan and Paris. But when Charlotte fell ill, all the painful memories and moments of helplessness came rushing back like fierce waves. Tom Roylance said he saw Pierce's unending pain, but Keeley's encouragement and support were always by his side, keeping him strong through the hardships. Then came the most tragic turning point. Charlotte got married. On June 14, 2013, she said yes to Alex Smith, her longtime partner. But just 2 weeks later, she passed away forever. At 2 p.m. on Friday, June 28, 2013, Charlotte died in London, surrounded by Alex, her 2 children, 15-year-old Isabella and 8-year-old Lucas, and her brothers Christopher and Sean. Born and raised in London, she studied acting there, and it was also the place where her short but meaningful life came to an end. Pierce released a brief statement after his daughter's passing. Charlotte fought her cancer with grace and humanity, courage and dignity. Her strength was remarkable. Charlotte's resilience, even while facing the shadow of a hereditary disease, left a profound mark on the hearts of her loved ones and friends. In her final weeks, Charlotte still took the time to prepare for her wedding. She wanted her children to understand that no matter the circumstances, love is always the most important thing. Isabella, her daughter, was only 15 when she lost her mother, the exact same age Charlotte was when her own mother, Cassandra, was diagnosed. Lucas, her son, was 8 years old, the same age as Sean Pierce's son when his mother passed away. The echoes of history were almost cruelly unbelievable. Friends described Charlotte as a devoted mother who gave everything to her children. Her close friend Claire Beckwith recalled Charlotte saying she no longer cared about acting. "This is my family." She said, "I want to give them all the love I have." And then just 2 weeks after saying "I do" at her wedding, Alex Smith went from newlywed husband to widower. Now Alex must shoulder the responsibility of raising their 2 children who have just endured the heartbreaking loss of their mother. Pierce, now a grandfather, once again faces the pain of loss, but strives to stay strong for his remaining loved ones. However, not all of Charlotte's siblings found a way to overcome the grief. Christopher Brosnan, Charlotte's brother, completely broke down. When he lost his mother in 1991, Christopher was only 19 years old and full of promise. He had even worked on Pierce's James Bond projects like Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough. But the pain haunted him relentlessly. By 1996, Christopher was fined $1,000 for drunk driving. A year later, he was sentenced to 3 months in prison for repeat offenses. His struggles with drugs began ranging from GHB to heroin. At one point, he even collapsed outside a club in London and fell into a coma. In 2012, at the age of 32, Christopher was arrested again for heroin possession, sinking deeper into the cycle of crime and addiction within Brixton's drug scene. This was a huge setback compared to the person he once was and the glamorous life he had near Hollywood. By June 2024, Christopher made his first public appearance in 20 years, spotted by paparazzi outside a grocery store in London, thin, lonely, and 51 years old. Meanwhile, Keely Shea Smith, Pierce's current wife, also had to fight her own battles. For years, tabloid magazines relentlessly mocked her appearance and weight. They openly compared Keely's youthful looks to her post-motherhood appearance, sparking widespread hateful comments across social media. Pierce couldn't stand it and spoke out to defend her in a post that received overwhelming support and shares. "I love every curve of her body. To me, Keely isn't just the woman by my side, but an endless source of inspiration in my life. She's the most beautiful woman in my eyes, not just for her appearance, but for her heart and resilient spirit full of unconditional love. Even more special, Keely has given us 5 children, a priceless gift I cherish forever. In 2024, she took on a challenging and determined weight loss journey, shedding 100 pounds. Without any cosmetic surgery or shortcuts, she relied solely on patience, discipline, and a healthy lifestyle. Daily walks, regular swimming, clean eating, and above all, maintaining self-respect and gratitude for the body that has carried her through life's ups and downs. On social media, she shared, "For all that my body has given and achieved in 60 years, I cherish every moment of health and happiness." In August 2024, they celebrated their 23rd wedding anniversary, a milestone not everyone is fortunate enough to reach in modern life. They also reflected on the 31 years since their first meeting, that fateful moment on the beach at Cabo San Lucas, where tragedy, pain, and love first began to intertwine. Through all the ups and downs, they remained together as strong as on their very first days. On their anniversary, Pierce gave Keely the sweetest words, calling her the north, south, east, and west of his life, meaning she was his guiding force, his anchor, and the only harbor in his life's journey. Keely responded with loving words, "You are the most wonderful, gentle, and loving woman I have ever known." The couple appeared together at many events, such as George Clooney's Broadway premiere in April 2025. Keely shone brilliantly in a seductive black lace dress, while Pierce maintained his elegant, strong, and vibrant demeanor, a true testament to their deep love and enduring bond that has lasted through the years. Despite enduring immense losses and hardships, Pierce continues to pursue his passion for the arts and give back to the community. His role as Dr. Fate in Black Adam 2022 is seen as a turning point in his career, showcasing a blend of strength and calmness, the image of a mature, composed man. At 71 years old, Pierce Brosnan is admired not only for his charming looks, but also for his steadfastness and resilience in life and his career. However, his success doesn't just come from the spotlight or red carpets. It stems from a mental strength forged through profound pain. He transformed loss, the passing of his loved ones, into motivation to keep fighting and live a meaningful life. Pierce has truly become a warrior not only on screen, but in real life too. When his beloved daughter Charlotte was diagnosed with the hereditary ovarian cancer that her mother Cassandra had suffered from, Pierce was willing to do anything to save her. He said he would call anyone, go anywhere, and even beg if necessary, all for the hope of keeping her with him for just one more day. Although he ultimately couldn't save Charlotte, he persevered and transformed that pain into strength to help others, becoming a voice for those fighting this cruel disease. Pierce Brosnan's love, resilience, and courage aren't just showcased in his on-screen roles. They're deeply reflected in how he tackles life itself. He stands as a true testament to a man who knows how to love, endure, and rise every time he falls. Above all, he's an inspiration to anyone battling their own challenges, showing that no matter what life throws at us, we can still find light in the darkness and keep moving forward with a heart that never gives up. If you found this story captivating, don't forget to like and share the video with your friends and everyone around you so they can know about it too. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on more exciting videos. Thank you for watching until the end, and see you in the next videos.